Okay, I am back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have any questions from what you learned so far, or what things that you've seen in society or anything like that so far, current events or anything like that before I go start?
No, the last video that I was actually watching was the video that you did on the origins of homosexuality.
Okay.
So I don't I don't have any questions. It just sounded extremely interesting because it just kind of cross-referenced back to some stuff that I learned that my mom taught me years ago.
Okay.
And in another study group that I was in, they explained how the Caucasian male more so introduced things like cleavage to women because it reminded them so much of the buttocks, so to speak.
Right.
So the rabbit hole goes deep, but as of now, I don't have any questions.
Okay. No, yeah, because that's the thing is that the propaganda that's going out right now is there's a lot of people now trying to spread out the origin of where homosexuality comes from. They want to try. They don't want to say that it's a European construct. They want to try to say, well, we really can't say per se where it comes from because they don't want to lay claim to it, and then they don't want to make the confession that propaganda is going on not just in America against blacks, but against blacks in Africa. They don't want to do that.
I agree.
They want to pretend as if it's just this is just it is what it is.
The natural way of things, and it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is people will say, because there's an answer for every scapegoat with that subject, because there's people who will say, well, I'm born this way, or I'm born this way. I say, well, thing is when people don't understand genetics, they'll automatically think like it's just a normal thing to be born with an imbalancement of estrogen as a man. But people have to understand something. If you're going back to parts of slavery and realize parts of time where, especially that part of time where African men were being raped, and you're sharing DNA with someone, what happens is your lone DNA, what was once pure, becomes impure when you begin to mix with someone of a whole different type of nature.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that is something that can be passed from generation to generation?
The only way now, because it's doing it now because genetically it's in our system because of mixing in with the European.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. That's the thing. Because we begin to mix in with him, we begin to take on a lot of his qualities, not just in terms of homosexuality. I want to cross-reference with you for a second. When you're dealing with food intake, when you're dealing with mannerisms, you begin to take on the mindset of the oppressor when you begin to mate with that oppressor. Once the oppressor is now mating with you, you begin to take on the DNA, and you begin to do things that subconsciously you have no idea why you're doing. You don't know why you're doing what you're doing, but you're actually taking on the same actions of the person who was oppressing you because you've already mixed your DNA with that situation. Same thing with interracial dating now. You have black men and black women that once they start mating in with Europeans, you're going to take on the characteristics of that European.
Okay.
And that becomes consistent because the product of that will be a child. So then you'll raise that child to have those same characteristics that you took on from that European. All these things play a part in terms of your DNA because whoever you mix your seed with, you take on their DNA, they take on part of yours.
Their attributes. I agree.
They take on, attributes.
My word.
That's reality. The thing is, in terms of slavery, we like to talk about, the hangings, to talk about, the situations with the females in terms of the rapings, in terms of the Stockholm syndrome and bedwetching, but we don't take into account what went on with the males in a lot of senses. The slave masters was extremely attracted to the males slaves
And
they don't
people
like
forget
to admit
that.
this. Yeah, they do. They like to, and mixing in with them, seeding with them, raping them, those African males are going to start taking on those characteristics because their DNA is now mixed in with that European now. Because you're taking from one, you've just been mixed in with an alien DNA, and now you're taking that DNA because these same men were used as breeders. A lot of the Mandinkos that they were raping were used as breeders at that time. So because of being used as being breeders, now you're mixing in that DNA, that defiled DNA, with the African woman. So that becomes generational because now she's taking on part of what has become alien to you because of the mixing in from that European or from that Caucasoid.
If I'm quiet, that means I'm just taking notes.
No problem, no problem. But no, that's reality. That's the one thing that I wanted to discuss today was it was a form of post-traumatic slave syndrome, but it was the title was going to be called Slavery Sensory. The title of this class is going to be called Slavery Sensory, and this is key because I was in school today and I was talking to a brother and he said this is simple. A lot of us go through this in our everyday lives. We walk the street and whatnot, and we see our own people, but we get mistreated by our own, and we don't understand why we're being mistreated by our own. Perfect example is he's like, well, I'm walking down the street, and I see a black man, and I nod to him, hey, how you doing? And he gives me a snarl, like, just F you, and automatically I say, you can't do nothing about that. That's psychological. You got to understand that. He said, what do you mean that's psychological? I said, you got to realize there's responses to oppression that we've never dealt with. That's the reality. We never dealt with what happened to us in terms of the effects. We just automatically, we're free now, so we can, quote unquote, somewhat do what we want to do, so we straight. But because not being debriefed from that treatment over a period of time, you're starting to, you don't realize subconsciously you've taken on characteristics of not just someone who's been oppressed, but the characteristics of the oppressor. And that is in turn when it manifests itself when you come across someone. Let's say, for example, I won't even go America first. I'll go colonize Africa, and you come across someone. Let's say you in the airport, for example, and you just got out the airport and you're waiting. Someone's going to take your bag, and you're waiting on a taxi, and that person that's in that taxi might more than likely be someone from Somalia, from Ghana, from Nigeria, right? Okay. And their treatment of you is kind of nasty. Treat me like
you're an outsider.
Right. Every black American gets that treatment from Africans. Like, what's up? Like, dude, you treat me as if I'm less than you. Like this attitude.
Less than you.
Exactly. Like they have this attitude like you're broke or you don't have no money, so let me see your money first. Mm-hmm. You understand? That is a sensory response to colonialism, because part of it is you looking at me because you were taught that black is inferior in your own country, and you've also been taught that blacks in America are inferior and ignorant, so they're not worthy of the right treatment or balanced or proper treatment. So what you'll do is you might see one, thinking from an African mindset, and you'll see a black American and you'll treat that person as less than human, because part of it is you're also taking on the characteristics of the oppressor and the colonizer of your country and your continent, because you were convinced that that individual was superior to you. So in order to become superior or be on the social status of the oppressor, I have to do the oppressing of those that look like me. That's the response. That's the sensory response of colonialism from a lot of Africans. Not every African does that, but when you get that treatment when you go into the restaurants. You might say, I want to try African food for a second. Let me just try and see what it tastes like.
Brother, I have seen it on too many occasions.
Yeah.
Too many.
Yeah. So
unless they need a wife. Unless they're looking for a wife, that's different.
Exactly. And then even such, they want you to fall under their quote unquote way of life. They want you to start being treated. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but they want you to start allowing yourself to be treated somewhat different. They'll start coming at you sideways. They'll either come at you sideways from a submissive standpoint, or they'll treat you a specific way because of liking certain parts of your body.
Mm-hmm.
So part of their self-respect and self-discipline has been taken away because of that oppression as well.
Wow.
All these situations play a part in why people respond and act a specific way towards Black Americans. That's the reality. We don't like to really look at that. That's why when people don't treat me a specific way, it's like the same thing for me. If you're not taking my bags, then I'm not giving you any money, and they don't know why. Automatically, they're looking at you like, huh? Like, no, you treated me as if I'm the enemy. You begin to treat me like the enemy is supposed to treat me, but in your mind, I'm your enemy because you've been so oppressed for so long in your own country that you begin to do the own oppressing. That's why people say, well, there's no real oppression no more. White people ain't doing it no more. We're doing it to ourselves. Correct, because it's from a sensory response to your own oppression. That's what it is. When you have Black Americans in this society that treat you differently, or, for example, rather, you're broke, you're a Black man, they won't allow you to get a job, they won't allow you to really educate yourself adequately. So the first thing you do is rob someone who looks like you. Sensory response.
It's easier for you.
It's easier for you because I don't have to go into the white neighborhoods because I fear whites. Because in my mind, they're going to do something harmful to me. I'm inferior to them. So when
I'll give you another good example, and it's so small. Littering.
Go ahead.
We'll throw trash in our own communities, chicken boxes, Coke cans, all day long. But when riding through white neighborhoods, we are very careful not to do that and draw attention to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, you're right. It's like you're in their neighborhood, so in your mind you feel like you're in the house. So let me treat the house a specific way. Bottom line. That's what it is. It's like plantation. You get plantation privileges when you're in your own hood because you're allowed to be in the slum because it's been created for you to live and die in, to just survive. But once you come out of that and you go into the white citadels of the society and the white neighborhoods and the communities, now you feel like you've made it, so you feel like you're in heaven now, so you want to tiptoe through the situation. You don't want to feel like, whatever with this. You want to feel, oh, man, this is heaven. So I'm not going to disrespect heaven. Now you're in the company of God now when you're in the white neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. That's
Jesus.
That's white Jesus. It's in the company of it's in the company of white God. Ultimately, blacks, whether it be in Black Africa or here in America, have been taught, as I said before in the class at the Super White Man Effect, you've been taught to see white as superior over you. And the best way to do that is to get you to worship something that looks other than self. That's the best way to do it, to get the oppressor, to get those that have been oppressed to see the oppressor as God over you, the supreme deity. Regardless of how we try to not admit to that. Perfect example, the name Jesus. The name Jesus is a Greek word. The original Greeks are European. Jah and Zeus. Okay? Automatically when we use that word and we give praise to that word, whether Jesus is black, it don't matter, good, bad, up and down, it doesn't matter. When we give praise to a word that has no linguistic connection to Africa, you're still worshiping white folks.
Exactly.
Bottom line. You can make all the excuses you want. Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15, hair like one, feet like brass. That don't mean nothing. That's excuses to keep groveling to the oppressor. That's all it is. That's the reality. We can sit here and make all the arguments about what color he was. The bottom line is you're identifying with a Romanized alien religion to you. It's no spiritual connection to Jesus. There's no spiritual connection to Jesus whatsoever. People don't understand when they don't know. A lot of times blacks don't really study their own history. They don't study the history of the Haitian Revolution.
Nope.
So when you look up, for example, when we in church and you see most of the time, most of the sisters are the ones getting, as we call, the Holy Ghost. That's an adrenaline rush. And that's also connected to what we went through in Haiti. Because if it wasn't for Boukman Dada, who was the first one to launch the Haitian Revolution, before Toussaint Louverture took it over after Boukman Dada was imprisoned and killed, he was the first one to tell the people who was being enslaved in Haiti that if you want to win, you have to do what? You have to give up your white God and take on the African God. And what they began to do was, in a very small level, they began to put the women in goddesships and in priestess positions. And they began to connect themselves with the ancient ones, with the ancient ancestors, and they began to have specific powers that work for them during the Haitian Revolution, that work for them in a positive way. So and that's why also, if you study Haiti, and you realize a lot of the people from Haiti migrated out of Haiti and into America, into the South.
Right.
From Texas to Louisiana to Mississippi. And remember, lots of parts of Louisiana, when they first, even during slavery, even free blacks, they established what in Louisiana? It started a lot of Yoruba, a lot of what we call voodoo, Ifa, Santeria. Exactly. That connect these people who established it are the ancient ancestors of a lot of the women you see in the church today.
Okay.
See, there's a physical connection to that. See, but
because
the problem
if you look at, and I hate to cut you off because you're hitting home for me, if you look at the way women react, especially Southern women react when we get the Holy Ghost. I'm a Bama baby. When you get the Holy Ghost, and when you see some of the ceremonies or traditional ceremonies, and I believe they call it writing, or when an Orisha is writing you, I don't know the exact terminology, but it looks the same.
Right.
It looks the exact same. The bucking and the dancing of the feet, it's the same thing. So I believe that a lot of this stuff is genetically connected to us.
It is. It's very much connected, and we don't know the true connection because we automatically were taught, because this whites don't have that response.
Nope.
In their churches, they don't have that response genetically to anything. They go in church and they clap their hands and they go get a beer when they're done. When they're done doing what they do, that's what they do. Blacks have a soul connection to that adrenaline rush. The problem is, because remember, if you go in black churches, you got the tambourines, you got the organs playing, you got the guitar playing, you got the drums playing. All this stuff is stuff that some of the drums and the tambourines, they use that in Yoruba and Ifa ritual.
They have to. They have to, because it brings the exact same effect. Anytime that you're dealing with either Orishas or Loas, there's certain musical instruments that appeal to each one.
Right. And the thing is, with blacks, though, they, in their mind, because of poor teaching, misinformation, and oppression, they automatically make these actions synonymous with white God, not black God, not African God. Because they've been taught, if I make this synonymous, or if I connect myself to black God, automatically I have to be a devil worshiper, I'm in the black magic, I'm in the voodoo, and all that stuff is bad. that you automatically accepted that Africa is bad because you said that is bad. You never thought to yourself that the oppressor has taught you that you are bad. We don't see it like that. We automatically, because we want to grovel and rub up against the European so bad, anything that he or she says to us, we want to accept. We don't buck it because white God said so. These are responses of 400 years of oppression. So a lot of the responses you see, like perfect example again. I'm gonna give you examples of when you see certain things in your neighborhoods and your communities, you know exactly what it is after hearing what I have to say. The reality, like, is just perfect example. You can have a normal conversation with somebody, and you could flip it to talking about the Moors of Spain. You know, Moors, not just Spain, but Moors of Europe. And you say, you could be talking to someone black, and it could be a couple of other black people around. And you could say, well, you realize black people were ruled 75 to 80% of Europe for 700 years. If it wasn't for black people, whites would still be in caves. And the response, I kid you not, most of the responses is going to be either laughter or they want you to prove that.
The question mark face.
It's a question mark face because in the back of their mind, Africans or black people ruling over white people is science fiction. That's the reality. We don't believe that black people can ever not be a slave and not grovel to the European or the oppressor. We feel the only way to freedom is to grovel to him. When we gave them freedom, we gave them knowledge, we gave them mathematics, we gave them art, science, colleges, we gave them language. If it wasn't for us, they would still be in caves. We were their gods, and they worship us. You automatically will either get, I don't believe you, or they'll laugh. These are all sensory responses to oppression.
And in all honesty, you have a small amount of people that will probably try to listen to what you're saying because maybe it resonates into them some kind of a way. But unfortunately, in most cases, people don't accept that kind of information unless it's proven by the white man. You can sit there and give 101 facts as to why what you're saying is correct. It'll make a little sense, but they won't accept it. They won't digest it. But let somebody come up with a CBS special or a History Channel, Ancient Aliens, and the white folks finally confirm it. Then they'll go ahead and accept it.
Right. That's exactly how it is.
I've seen that happen.
No, you're right. You're right. They don't. The thing is that blacks only will accept information from confirmation from the European. If Europeans don't say it, it can't be true.
It ain't right.
It ain't true. It ain't true. It can't be. Because white God, white mama, and white daddy didn't say it. And because they didn't say it, then it's not true. Bottom line, that's the way we think. If you have to say, if you want me to prove that to you as a black man, we both in the same situation, and you want me to prove to you that prior to 1492, 95% of the history was what we created. And you want me to prove that to you, and you want me to go online and give you a white man's version of what they said. See, I told you was lying. See, that's because at the end of the day, you want to continue worshiping the oppressor. Bottom line. And they don't want to accept that. These are responses to extended oppression. And most of the people who do these actions, they don't want to truly accept the fact that, wow, these are not my responses. Is not my own. This is not a natural response to someone telling me that I'm great. You don't want to believe you're great, because the white man didn't tell you that. He didn't tell you that. He said this is your history of slavery and civil rights. Other than that, you did nothing. And when we came over there, we converted you, and we took you out of being a savage, If it wasn't for us, you would still be a savage and you would have no language and you would live in a cave. They've convinced black people and African people on the continent that they lived in caves. They've convinced that to them when there's no damn caves in Africa whatsoever. It's fertile grassland. Africa's fertile grassland. Fertile grassland, diamonds and golds and, and redneck kingdoms. That's reality. Where's a cave? You got more caves.
Caves in Africa.
Where are the caves in Africa? You got more caves in Middle America.
Oh Lord.
You got more caves in Europe. You got more caves in parts of Asia because of the Peking man than you do here. You got more caves in the Caspian and the Black Sea, Elbrus. That's what they were known for. That's where we knew we're not going over there because that's where the filth lives, the European. This is historical fact. This is ancient Egypt. This is ancient Commission history, our story.
We're not going over there because that's where who?
Hmm?
There was a word you just used. You said we're not going over there. The word we just used,
filth. We knew that filth lived in those caves.
Okay.
6,000 years ago, we knew that animals lived in those caves. The perfect example, if you deal with the smallpox epidemic that came during colonialism, when they came over, the first thing that they did was even before the European came over to parts of Africa and South America where Africans were, they transplanted smallpox, their diseases that they had or that they developed after living amongst animals. This was an animalistic way that they lived. That's why if you look at some of the National Geographic documentaries on colonialism, they dress up the history because they don't want to see them. They don't want to really show how they really were. But when you go to historical accounts of even Moorish documents, it shows how savage and animalistic they really were at that time. They want to make it seem like the conquistadors and Spaniards came in on these, they were middle-aged, mighty knights. Like, no. If it wasn't for, it was a farce. All that is a farce. Because if it wasn't for, farce is a false construct. It's false. When you say that, that's a farce. That's false.
Mm-hmm.
It's not factual. Because when you look at the King Arthur and Lancelot mythology, that was taken from Morian, who was a black man. He was the one that built that Druid structure that we know as Stonehenge. An African did that.
Are you serious?
That's serious. This is if you ever get a chance to find the book Golden Age of the Moor, or you can also go online and look up. You put in African man or Morian and look that up online, and it gives you the full history of Morian and him being the knight that they took his information and created the whole Sir Lancelot and King Arthur story from.
And also the concept of, also Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, exactly. They wanted to make it look like the Druids built it from some type of ritualistic thing that they put together. No, African man named Morian was the one that built that structure in Europe. Because the first people who inhabited that land that we call Europe were African people. 10,000 years ago, the Grimaldi goddesses were over that part of Europe, over most of Europe at that time, before it was called Europe. These are women, these are African women, Amazons, the Grimaldis or the Sands people. They were the first ones to inhabit Europe. And they weren't. It wasn't an unfertile situation at that time. It became unfertile when we decided to go back into Africa, and it became ruined over a period of time. So it lost its fertilization. So that's when after the European, that first European that manifestation, that was out of that Indian, when he had to migrate out of parts of India and also parts of Africa, he had to go into the caves. That was over 6,000 years ago. That first albino. So that's the thing. They don't really want to go into their history of who they really are. they want to continue that system of racism, white supremacy, to give everyone else that myth that they did everything. Because they have to start at 1492. If they go prior to 1492 in certain parts, they'll run into their own domination. And they, but then when they teach it, they want to color it a little bit and want to sophisticate it a little bit. They don't want to go into the true history of the European and them being dominated. If it wasn't for certain blacks that were in Europe, they wouldn't speak. Majority of Europeans who came over here would not speak a language at all. They would still be savage. But these are truths. These are realities that they don't really want to acknowledge to the world, especially the African that's here in America, even over to the continent. Bottom line. That's the thing we have to know. When we see certain responses by our people and we see certain actions by our people, it's a psychological breakdown. A psychological breakdown because of oppression. And when we don't see it like that, we'll automatically say the same thing that the oppressor says, those people. Look at what those people are doing. You might be conscious, but you won't look at a person who sleep a little bit and be like, man, that's that person. I'm not that over there. No, I'm not that.
Those people.
That's just those people. That's the same thing Europeans say. Europeans say it. You got Hispanics say it now. Latinos say it. You got Asians say it. You got Indians say it. Malaysians say it. All these races of people say it against us because they've taken on the oppressor's mindset. It's like other races oppress us. The European is past oppressing us. Now we're being oppressed in our own neighborhoods by Arabs and Asians because we allow it at this point.
Okay, back it up. You said we're oppressed by Arabs and Asians?
Yeah, we're now being oppressed and disrespected by Arabs and Asians now from their convenience stores and going in their store and being treated like criminals. I got to write
this down. I love it. Go ahead. No, because you're right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, because the thing is, they don't have to do it anymore. The European, the Caucasoid, the white man, he doesn't have to do it anymore. Because now the Asians and you got the Middle Easterns who come over here, they're now taking on those same characteristics that the Europeans been doing to us for so long. They're now starting to take on the oppressor's mindset of oppressing black African people in America. Even you go in some African stores, they treat you and disrespect you, and you disrespected into you like dirt, like crap.
Dirt.
That's all that is the sad thing is all these people went through colonization and oppression in their areas, in their countries and in their continents, but they want to pretend. The thing is, once you come into America and you're not black, automatically you feel you can have the classification as white and treat Africans born in America as less than the same way whites do. So you taking on the same characteristics that the European oppressor has. He doesn't have to do it anymore to us now. They're doing it to us now.
Junior oppressors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Taking on the same characteristics. Not realizing that that makes no sense, because you got to realize most of the people who came over here were given capital. They were given a lot of money to start their businesses. That realize blacks have been here really mathematically longer than anybody else on the planet. And this side of the country, on this side of the world, America, blacks have been here longer than anybody. But if you count specifically slavery and everything that we did, blacks are owed capital. Blacks are owed reparation. But they don't want to lay claim to that because the number would be so astronomical. How would you calculate that? So what they do is when they outsource people to come over here, the Asians, the Hispanics, and the East Indians, and the Middle Easterns, they give them capital to start their businesses. Bottom line, they give them money to start their businesses over blacks. And most of them, if you notice, they put those businesses in black neighborhoods, to further oppress and rob them blind and money. Continuously. And we have to, there's solutions to this problem. There's solutions to this problem. You got to realize one thing, that the sensory level of a lot of blacks, because of acting out their oppression, every one of them can't be saved. It's just not going to make it. You can do whatever you can do to save those with knowledge of self in a level that they will be able to listen to you. But a lot of them, that's just the way they are psychologically. It's the same thing in slavery. Every slave did not want to be free.
Nope.
They came in and they freed us, and a lot of us said, to hell with the South, we're going up to the North and establish something. And a lot of them, and then you had a lot of slaves that were Uncle Tom house niggas, and they decided to go back in the house and rub against Massa all over again. They loved being around the European. And a lot of them love being around the European, and they will be used at some point in time against those that know what's going on. They'll be used as pawns. Those that are still asleep, they'll be used as pawns. And so we got to get to a point where those that are oppressing us now, those non-European oppressors, the Asians and the East Indians and the Middle Easterns, the only way to solve that problem is through group economics. We have to be able to create an economic base for ourselves. If we don't create an economic base for ourselves, we will still be further oppressed and still robbing ourselves blind and constantly giving our own capital that we work for to them. And we'll be forever consistently oppressed. We'll never get out of our state of oppression. Because all they'll keep doing is coming into black neighborhoods and constantly colonizing it and creating their own businesses that they don't give anything back to. Black people put all their money into these specific businesses. Give all these money into these specific businesses, and these businesses give nothing back to the community because they never were meant. They never had that mindset to do that in the first place.
So I think it's kind of a wrap for most people that are over a certain age. How do we train? I have a 9-year-old son. How do we train our children to be more economically independent, or try to get away from this sort of a system?
First thing we have to do is teach them about themselves. The first thing you have to do is teach a child about themselves. First, the economic part about it is to show, just when you're around them, you have to get them familiar with being around black businesses. When you go and shop, you have to, when you're with that child, you have to show that black businesses is where it's at. You have to put that in their mind. Anything that you do and you do with that child and you bring that child along with you, they'll eventually imitate because you're the first teacher of that child. So they're going to look at that, because most of the time growing up, a lot of times I was going to convenience stores. My mom was going to convenience stores. So I was taking on those same actions. But all you have to do, even if it's Jamaican restaurants, the child will become familiar with being around people's businesses that look like them. So all you do is just teach them the fundamentals. And the second thing you can do, just teach them the fundamentals of buying from people who look like you, and knowing how that is going to build us up to being a rich nation all over again. If you've already started doing that, then you're on the way. Most of the time, we don't do that. We teach our kids that being dependent upon Walmart and making Walmart our God is what we're supposed to do. We give them this myth that having food stamps and going to the welfare office is the place to be. We bring our kids there and they see what's going on. So they take that and they internalize that into being a reality of what it's supposed to be. So that's what I'm saying. The first thing you need to do, or that you can do, is just be around or have your child around black businesses with you. Make them familiar with the situation. So make them familiar enough with it so that if you do anything opposite to that, it's going to look funny to them. And then, again, the second thing is to, books from Claude Anderson, things like that teach them group economics, teach it in a very fundamental way to where they get it, to where they can finally get, like, I can, example, if I buy my hair, if I get a haircut, I'm gonna get my haircut from a black barber, and that black barber is gonna buy it from me. If I have a taxi cab, that taxi cab driver is gonna buy it from me. If I have a bookstore, that bookstore driver, that bookstore person, if I have a construction business, they're gonna get their investment from me. They're gonna do all these things with me. If I need a house built, I'm gonna get a black carpentry business. All these things, even if it's to get your tire changed, you're gonna bring your child to these situations where black people are doing these things, and it's gonna become familiar to these children, because they have to see this as a reality first, especially at that age. A lot of times just telling them certain things sometimes it's not going to be enough. They have to see it, and they have to see the actions coming from you.
I agree.
So that's extremely important. That's the thing, because we do the adverse to that. They'll see us doing, of course, going to the corner store, to convenience stores where they got a big bulletproof glass window in front of you, and that becomes their reality, because we're bringing them to these situations. We have to bring them to the opposite. That's reality. We got to bring them to the opposite, and that's action. That's action over words. That's more action over words. That's more powerful than the words you can tell them, because a lot of times we get stuck in the wordage as opposed to the action. So the first step is action, and really the second step is words. And you teach them how important what I just did, how important this is to keeping what we have together. And one thing you can do is, if you can, especially YouTube, use it as a tool for education. You can look up documentaries on the, Black Wall Street. And because when I first heard about Black Wall Street, when I heard about it, I thought that was false. I'm like, wow, this is real? We had our own black city? Because Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tulsa's a city. It's not just a town. Tulsa, Oklahoma's a city. So we didn't, it wasn't just a town. They minimized it. That was a city of all black businesses, all black people. But for black kids, it's false. So
the concept is so foreign to them.
Right. Because they see the opposite of that. They see white businesses, Latino businesses, and Middle Eastern businesses. They don't see black businesses like that on a concentrated effort. And that'll make them ask the question, where's the other black Wall Street? Why isn't there no other black Wall Street? They're going to have to ask that question. It's going to force them to ask you, why doesn't this exist? That's called right implantation. We've been doing wrong implantation for years. We need to do with right implantation with our kids now. Extremely important.
I thank you for that information, and it's more so of a confirmation that in some areas I am doing, some of the right things.
Mhm. Yeah, we just got to know. We just got to get some type of, confirmation of what we're doing. A lot of times we don't know. We just do it, and a lot of us are taught certain things and we start doing it. But it's good that you're on the right track. Most of us are not even on any track at all. We're just going with the mundane and just thinking that's it. We think that normal in this society, we think that abnormal is normal and normal is abnormal. Because normal to us is being God, but we think that that's abnormal, so we continue the same style that we've been to think is real. That's reality. That's what it's called. Sad. Our classes is usually an hour. I don't overwhelm anybody depending on the subject matter, but yeah.
And is this every week?
This is every week. I do this every Wednesday now. Every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock my time, because I'm in Texas. So
I'm in Alabama.
Oh, okay. So you're Eastern time, right?
No, I'm Central. I'm in Mobile. I'm right here on the coast.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's 9 o'clock now to you.
Mhm.
Pretty much. Close to 9. Okay. Okay. So yeah. Definitely. Yeah. This is every week. I think it's every week different subject, and just deal with whatever's going on. But this is current because this is what we see. So definitely. So yeah, I want to say thank you for you, getting on, and
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for having this.
Yeah, I do it every week, so I know I'm doing it. So, yeah, I'll definitely, we definitely build anyway. So thank you again.
And pretty much, and anybody, as long as they're open-minded, can call in and listen.
Yeah, anybody can get on.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Okay, good.
Listen, thank you again so much for the information. What I'm probably going to end up doing, because I'm really inquisitive and things kind of come to me like later, I have a whole bunch of questions based off some of the things that we're talking about now. I'm probably going to be inboxing you some things.
Okay.
Via Facebook, and you just kind of touch on what you want to touch on.
Oh, no problem. No, I will do that.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. You have a good week.
I will.
All right, now. Peace.